Welcome to Eclipse in Java using the debugger. This tutorial is going to be fun. We're going to learn how to use the Eclipse Java debugger to look inside a running Java program. This is going to help us fix programming mistakes and also learn more about the inner workings of Java. Now this tutorial assumes either that you've completed the Eclipse in Java for Total Beginners tutorial or have some familiarity with Eclipse in Java. No prior knowledge of the Eclipse debugger is needed. The lessons are designed so that you can work side by side as we go along, pausing and rewinding as needed. As with the other tutorials, we will use test-driven development. Now before we get started, please check that you have Eclipse 3.3 or later installed and that you've downloaded the file called debugger-tutorial-project.zip and the tutorial companion PDF document from the website. The zip file contains an export of the project that will serve as our starting point for this tutorial. Now in the first part of the tutorial, we're going to learn the basics of using the Eclipse Java debugger. After that, we'll look at some more advanced features. Here we have Eclipse running. First, we'll import the project we're going to use for the tutorial. We go File, Import, General, Existing Projects into Workspace. Press Next. We're going to say Select Archive File, Browse. This is the directory where I downloaded the zip file. Select the zip file, Open, press Finish, and now we've got our debugger tutorial project. Now if you completed the Total Beginners or Persistence tutorials, you should be familiar with the My Library project. We've got these 4 classes and we've got some test classes. If not, take a moment to read the project summary in the tutorial companion document, or if you prefer, look at the code for the 4 classes: Book, My Library, My Utilities, and Person. Before we start debugging, we're going to tell Eclipse to display line numbers in the Java source editor. We'll go Window, Preferences, General, Editors, Text Editors, and we'll check this box that says Show Line Numbers and press OK. Since the debug view refers to line numbers, it's convenient to be able to see the line numbers in the Java editor view. Now we're ready to start debugging. To start the debugger, we need to do 2 things. First, we need to tell the debugger where we want the program to pause, and secondly, we need to run the program in debug mode. Let's open the My Library class for editing, and go to the main method, and we're going to click over here on the left to the main method. We're going to double click, and we see that little blue decoration there. That indicates that we've put a breakpoint. If we hover, we see method breakpoint, My Library entry. A breakpoint tells the debugger to pause or break at this point in the code. Now breakpoints don't have any effect when we run a program using run as, but when we run a program using the debug as, the breakpoint takes effect and the debugger will run the program to this first breakpoint and then suspend or pause the program just before this line is executed. Now we can set a breakpoint on any line of code, and we can toggle it on and off by double clicking. Now starting a debug session is just like running a Java program, except we use debug as instead of run as. So we can go run debug as Java application, and when we click this, we get confirm perspective switch, and we want it to automatically switch to the debug perspective, and we'll see that in a moment. So we're going to check remember my decision. This way we won't get this question every time. Select yes, and now Eclipse has switched to the debug perspective. Now as you may remember, we can switch perspectives either by using these buttons here. I can go Java or Debug, or by going Window, Open Perspective, and I could go Java and then back to Debug. There's nothing magic about perspectives, but it's very handy to have Eclipse automatically open the debug perspective when we open a new debug session. So at this point, we're running the main method of the MyLibrary class in debug mode. Now let's look at the debug perspective. In the upper left here, we have the debug view. This shows the class being run, org debugger tutorial MyLibrary. Then it shows the thread. Now simple programs like this just have one thread. If you have a more complicated program, maybe with a graphical user interface, you might have more than one thread, but here we just have one. Then underneath thread, this line is called a stack frame, and it's got this little pause symbol, and we'll learn more about stack frames as we go along. But this basically just shows exactly where we are in the program, and we're at the main method, which is line 160. Below the debug view, we have our Java editor. And here we can see our breakpoint. Now this breakpoint was set at a method, so we stopped just before the first executable line inside that method. So even though we set the breakpoint at 158, we're actually stopping here just before line 160 because that's the first executable line inside the main method. Now notice that the editor view highlights the current line of code that we're about to execute, which is in the main method. Now over here we have the outline, which has the main method highlighted, again because we're inside the main method. And then up here we have the variables view and the breakpoints view, and we'll talk about those more as we go along. Now the first thing we need to do is to learn how to step through our program. So we're going to focus on these buttons right here. Now first of all, this button is the resume button, and we'll talk about that more later. This basically would continue the execution of the program until either the program is done or we hit another breakpoint. Now this red button is a terminate, and this just basically stops the debug session right where we're stopped in the program. So this just terminates the session and lets us start over again. Now the three buttons we really want to focus on right now are step into, step over, and step return. These are the main commands we use to control how we navigate through the program. Now we're going to start with the second button, step over. This button just executes the current line of code and stops at the next line. So now we're going to press it, and we can see that now the stack frame says we're now at line 161, and now line 161 is highlighted down here. And of course here we're still in the main method, and there were some changes up in the variables, and we'll talk about those later. So the step over just executes the current line and stops at the next line. This is the end of the YouTube preview of Eclipse in Java using the debugger. You can download the entire set of 7 video lessons at eclipsetutorial.sourceforge.net. The lessons are free and altogether are about 1 hour and 45 minutes long. In the lessons, we learn how to use the Eclipse debugger to debug our Java programs. Along the way, we learn a lot of cool Eclipse functionality. I'm Mark Dexter. Thanks for watching.